session.
Thank you. I'm delighted to be here, and of course, being older than everybody here, I've actually lived through what discrimination may bring about when you're a woman trying to work your way up. I have to also say that I do gesticulate. I am Greek, but I will try and keep my hands in my pocket so it doesn't distract you too much, but I may not succeed. I really was impressed with everything we've heard, but I have to say I'm an economist, so I look at it very much from an economic viewpoint. I look at almost everything from an economic viewpoint, and actually I'm rather depressed about the fact that the number of women who study economics is going down as a percentage of everyone who decides to do economics. It's gone down from about 26% about 10 years ago to only 20% now. Women are being put off by the subject. They do loads of other things, but they've been put off by the subject. And it's really rather unfortunate because, of course, women can have a huge influence on how our economy is being shaped in the future. For the moment, I mean, please think of a woman Chancellor of the Exchequer. I can't think of one. If you find one, do let me know. And why do we worry, given that, about the definition of feminism? Feminism was a political movement, but as Keynes said, all of you who've done your economics would know, when the facts change, I change my mind, that feminism has moved. It's not a political movement anymore. The truth is that for a while, it was pretty nebulous. It suited actually lots of people not to put a fantastic definition, very precise to it, because it could mean all sorts of things to different people. But actually, the Me Too movement and everything that's been going on right now has encouraged a shift. And the shift is allowing feminism actually to move forward. And it has become a movement to achieve gender equality. But how do you achieve gender equality? I'm afraid I'll fall back to being an economist. You only achieve it by having economic power, which is equivalent to that of your fellow male colleagues, or anyone you meet in the street. The role models for girls should not be Greek girls in shows, or glamour girls. It's quite interesting, when we heard one of the previous speakers, they referred to those as being good jobs for working class women. If that isn't discrimination, what is? And if the women themselves cannot get their act together, what hope is there for us? So I hope that my argument...
Of information.
Yes.
I don't think that was what was being asserted.
I wrote it down.
It
says working class girls find jobs as grid models and glamour girls, things they want to do.
Why not the choice?
Oh, why working class girls, may I ask?
Because they are
Why is this the sort of thing that working class girls can do, whereas girls around here shouldn't?
I never said that girls around here should.
Oh, please, would you like to be glamour girls? Please raise your hands, those who have...
I have done that job, not Greek girls precisely, but I've done promotional modelling as a teenager. It helps supplement my income. I don't think I'm stupid. I respect my decision and I don't regret it. And I don't think you should remove the choice for other women to do the same.
Okay, I suspect you were not a glamour girl, though. Were you?
I used to have a job where I had to walk onto a stage wearing a skimpy dress for GHD while I sat there in the skimpy dress and they did stuff to my hair. I got paid very well compared to the other jobs that I could have done at that age, i.e. flipping burgers or working in a shop. I'd be very angry if someone tried to take that opportunity away from me.
Okay, I'll take it back. Glamour girls are great. I think modelling is a very respectable profession. I don't disagree with that. But of course, you know, I would suspect that this is not the type of role model one is looking for if one is looking for equality. And that is really what feminism is all about. It is now looking for gender equality. And why? It's because this Me Too campaign that has taken place has shown that the power lies really with men and has lied with men for a very long period of time. We heard again from the previous speakers that girls go to universities now in larger numbers and they're doing better than men. And this is absolutely true. and there would be an outcry if it was anything the other way around. And yet, 78% of professors, even though women go into academia in very large numbers, 72% of senior managers, 72% of senior managers, and 81% of vice chancellors in the UK are women. Men.
The point is, though, that women have been going to university in greater numbers than men for a quarter of a century, for 25 years. So if you want to be a professor or a senior manager or a vice chancellor, you need to have been working for more than 25 years. If you look at age, the age of senior managers, professors and vice chancellors is, I would say, most of the time over the age of 50, i.e. these are people from a different generation that did not have the same opportunities. There is a historical time lag at play here. We often hear said that there are more men called John, and I'm sure you might quote this statistic yourself, there are more men called John running FTSE 100 companies than there are women. Who knows a man under the age of 42 who is christened John? Not me. It tells us far more about the age of men who are running FTSE 100 companies than it ever does about their gender.
It's a very good point, and you probably would find similar numbers for Hughes, Hugos, what other very popular, I don't know, come on, give me a popular name of your generation. James, yeah, it would be exactly the same. So that John came to the head of whoever it is who wrote that silly comment. And there we are. But the interesting thing is that it's indeed been taken, things have improved, there's no doubt about it. If you look at the women who stay in the professions, they join them at larger numbers than the men, and then they leave. And while early on they earn more than the men, as they move through the ages, and they've been around for some time, that suddenly a pay gap appears. And the pay gap gets larger as they move through the 30s, and if they leave and have children, the pay gap becomes even greater, and it's about 30%. And unfortunately for women, a lot of the work that they do when they come back is part-time. And part-time work is paid hugely less per hour. It's not a question of earnings, as we heard, because women do part-time. We're talking about what you're paid per hour to do your job. Part-time work for women, the money you get per hour is 37% less than per hour for a full-time man. Now, you may say, well, that's because they're doing silly jobs. They're all nurses or cleaners. Now, what the Equal Opportunity Act has given you, and what the Equal Pay Act has given you, is the right to take people to court, like the BBC girls could do, if the equivalent job that you are doing is paid a lot more if a man is doing it. So, for example, in Birmingham, the cleaners took Birmingham City Council to court because the cleaners, all women, were earning about £12,000, £15,000 a year. The guys who were collecting the rubbish were earning about £30,000 or £32,000 a year. Now tell me what is more useful. They argued that their cleaning job was equivalent to what the rubbish collectors were doing, and they won. It's practically bankrupted the Birmingham City Council. Yes.
So women under the age of 30 who work part-time earn 8% more than men under the age of 30 who work part-time.
But 52%, there is a majority of women who work part-time through their lives, whereas most men work full-time. So the small number of men who work part-time are an exception. So that's not to be quoted as a figure for anyone to look at. So I'm telling you this for a fact. So, and this carries on. If you look through the statistics, you will be amazed. So, there are now, after all these years of supposed equality, only some 6% of senior positions, executive positions, are held by women. Which is an extraordinary, it's risen a little bit from about 5%. We are really talking about a very, very slow progress seen in this country over the period that women have started going to university in bigger numbers and early on doing actually slightly better than the men. One could say because they're slightly better themselves, but let's just forget that for a moment. But there is certainly no problem early on. There is a serious problem after, and one of those problems, of course, is being a person who produces children, but also that they don't like the type of culture that they find in large law firms, for example, in big accounting firms, where I worked, and so on. My solution to this, and I think it's moving in that way, because of course we now have regulatory pay reviews taking place. So you actually have to tell people what women are earning and what men are earning. And it's not just the case, as it is at present, that there is a pay gap, of course, in firms, and that is because of the very weak argument, oh, these men are in senior positions and you can't actually look at the difference between the men and the women because you have loads of pilots in EasyJet or wherever, or McKinsey, which is supposed to be an equal opportunity place, actually has lots of senior people. The men are all men, and therefore if you compare wage gap, which is enormous between men and women, it's because you have loads of low-paid women in low jobs, whereas you have the men up there. I don't think there is anything that we can possibly say right now, so all these years of equality, that can really justify the fact that you can actually say to the people who ask you what is your pay gap, by saying it is because actually, you know, I'm afraid we have senior people up there who are men. Women are still quite low paid because they're in weak position, in rather inferior positions, if you like, and that's where the pay gap is. And we're working towards improving it, but that's the fact of life. It's really just because we have pilots and the women are stewardesses. So we're fine. But no, we're not fine. Why are there not more pilots who are women? Why are there not more very high paid consultants who are women after all these years of them being around? So what has happened through regulation, through pushing firms to do things differently, through the public sector itself, actually having targets to achieve increase diversity and equality actually at the board level. I was a board member of one of the departments, is that the movement itself is now focusing finally, on this power balance, which is, as I said at the beginning, an economic power balance. And it is only that way that proper gender equality will be achieved. And then you will need, with a bit of luck, the grid girls and the glamour girls, because society will have changed. And society needs to change through legislation. And what I have advocated is that there are quotas for women, not discrimination, not saying we're going to have a woman rather than a man, but ensure that you have to achieve this type of equality at some point in senior levels, and you keep your women going. So you allow them more flexible time when they have children. Children are very valuable in society. The job they do when they're at home is really valuable. They should be paid for it. They should be promoted while they're away having children. And they should be able to, like it happens right now in the civil service, you should be able to have shared jobs in senior levels, which actually also happens now in the civil service. And that is how you achieve the change in the culture within the organisation that benefits the men as well. Because why would the man have to stay late at night? Why would the man almost be forced to take clients to lap dancing clubs or spend the weekend playing golf supposedly to get any contacts going for the future? No. What you do is you change society by actually changing the culture of those organisations, because they have to keep the pipeline going. It benefits the men. It also benefits, if you do this for the majority, which is women, it benefits everyone else as well, whether they are ethnic minorities or sexual orientation people who also feel they will be looked at properly. So that's what the feminist movement is becoming, helped by all these revelations that we've seen recently. I think it is uniting rather than actually falling apart. And for me, this economic equality, which will be achieved as a result of this movement, assuming we all continue to back it and don't suddenly decide that we have other better things to do, I think we'll achieve what we all have to get for the economy to prosper, which is economic empowerment for women of equal value